Oh, hello. Hmm. Good morning, everybody. Or evening, depending on where you are. Good afternoon. What's happening? You guys want to see something cool? I got a bunch of cool stuff here right now. Look at this. A fella from Poland sent this to me. And look at that. How cool is that? So what is it? I bet you're asking. It's a booster, germanium. And I don't really quite understand it yet, but I believe it's got two boost circuits in it that you can kind of stack. And then the big knob in the middle here is to kind of fine tune low end. So different levels of low cut or adding lows. And then you got a gain and a volume. And then these two toggles here that allow you to kind of, they're labeled treble, no, or full. So full range boost. I'm not sure what no is. I got to read the manual more. I got it sitting right here. But I did plug it in briefly and it sounds great. It's really cool. And there's the power jack on the back there. So I know you're probably like, well, how do you it's like as a pedal, like what do you do? Well, it's not really a pedal. I think it's meant to sit kind of on top of your amp, like almost like a range master would have, or, mainly used in the studio, but kind of like an always on. There's no on off really. I don't think, it just kind of, you plug it in and it's in line and it's just cool. So, fun, right? I like that. No means no. No means no, Pete. That's totally true. Oh, I just forgot to do something. Damn, I got to do a little something. So talk amongst yourselves here for a minute while I go to YouTube and change a setting. One sec. How's everybody doing out there? What else is going on this week? I got other cool stuff to show you too. In just a second here. I'm just still getting adjusted to being back home in LA and not being on a bus. And it feels good. I'm happy to be here. And happy to be alive. And happy to be, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to put this in the Q&A playlist. There we go. And YouTube asks you all these questions. Forgot to do a few things that I'm supposed to do. Did it all. There we go. Let's save that. We're good. All right, let's carry on. No means no. Noodling on a Sir PT signature. Which one? Have you got your new one? You got a new one, right? Didn't you? I think. Let's see what else we got here. Leroy just bought a Rev Star Standard. Those are nice. Yeah, they do a good job on those. I think they're quite cool guitars. Yamaha makes good stuff. I mean, they're well-made guitars and, good stuff. Todd says, have you ever jammed with Warren DeMartini? Warren and I are buds. I haven't actually seen him for a little while, but we haven't really jammed together, but we've eaten a lot of tacos together. We drank some margaritas together, eaten a lot of tacos. We tend to get together and go for Mexican food like once every few months. He and his significant other are just lovely people. They're really, really, really nice, and he's a great cat. Just like the nicest, sort of soft-spoken, really introspective, bright guy. Always has good things to say about other people, and he's just a positive dude. So, but he's been in here and played a little bit and stuff. But we've never sat and like actually jam back. I'd love to do that sometime. Maybe it'll happen. He's a really, really good cat. All those guys, George. I think of them as the trifecta of George and Warren and Jake. I recently got to have a meal with Jake in Las Vegas while I was out there rehearsing. And I got together with Friedman and Jake, and it was really fun. He's hilarious and really bright and just a cool cat. Yeah, and then George is a great guy too, and hilarious. And they were all such big influences on me when I was growing up. Those three were the you of course had Ed, and then you had those cats that were the in the other bands in LA that had success and kind of were kicking ass and stuff like that, and they're great guys, all of them. I must say nothing but good things. Music Life with Arthur says, Jake is an awesome guy. He's so funny, right? He's hilarious. He's a good cat. Yeah. Yeah. Robert says Warren is a beast. Yeah, he's awesome. Warren has a lot of really cool influences, and he was really into Uli Roth, and he just was his story about moving from San Diego to LA to join Rad is amazing. It's hilarious. He tells it in such a way that's so cool, where he basically decided to leave one night while his mother was out, because he was really young, right? He was like 18 or 19 or something, and he decided to leave home. Like they called him and basically like, we need you to play a gig on Tuesday, and this is on like Friday or Saturday or something, and you have to come up here and move here and join our band, basically, sort of thing. And he he was like, what? Like, I can't, like, he was still in school or something, I think. So he just decided to get in the car one night and take off and go. And he says he saw these headlights coming down the street as he was getting ready to back out his car, and he had all his amp and everything in his car. He was going to tell his mom later, like leave the house and then like call her or whatever and be like, well, I kind of moved to LA, but here's these lights coming down the street, and it's his mom, pulling up. He's got to get out of the car and explain that he's moving to LA to join this rock band. He's the anxiety in his voice as he's telling the story, and the headlights coming down the street, and he knows it's his mom, and he almost got out of there without having to see her face to face. It's a sweet story. It's endearing. Anyways, Joe says, fresh pots. Thanks, man. Yeah, I just made some coffee here. Recently got an Earthquaker Nightwire harmonic trem. Wanted to know how you would use tremolo in writing your music. I have a hard time with it sometimes because of the rhythmic pulse of the tremolo, and I always want it to be in time. And I have to get around that, and just, I really like harmonic tremolo because it's almost got something a little bit more, it's a softer kind of, I don't know, envelope or whatever you would say. And it's almost got something in common with phasing or univibe or something. And I find that a little easier to deal with than a hard stuttering kind of tremolo, which I always feel like is out of time. Now, I kind of like the sort of like fast stutter tremolo that you hear on some old sort of 50s or 60s stuff. And it doesn't really have to be in time because it's going so quickly that you don't really perceive the rhythm of it. But it's when it's slower that it's, an issue, I guess. So, but yeah, I would say in my music, the harmonic tremolo I would use to almost do like a vibey arpeggiated sort of chords, or something that's supposed to lend some texture, and I like harmonic trem for that because it's got that softer edge to it and then almost phasing like quality. So yeah. Yeah. Some good stories here. Met Jake at a record signing in Birmingham. I wonder if that's like Birmingham, Alabama, or Birmingham, England. It says UK 5150. That's a clue right there on your name there. So, yeah, let's see what else we got here. What's your preferable string height for low and high E on a Les Paul? I don't have I go by feel. I don't have a measurement I can give you. I'm sorry. I know that's an underwhelming answer, but I really don't. I don't have like some people are like, oh, I like this however many, inches or fractions of an inch or whatever. I don't have any idea. I do it all by feel. And generally speaking, I get it as low as I can without it buzzing obnoxiously and that kind of thing. So, yeah. My niece hurt says whammy bar and wah pedal elude me. They look cool. No idea what to do with them. I mean, you can either do a dive bomb, or you can just use the whammy bar to do light vibrato, kind of a la Alex Lifeson, the way he used to kind of shake chords with it and stuff. You can go down a half step and dip back. I mean, I love using the bar. I'm a big bar aficionado. But, there's different, I would say some of my favorite whammy bar players are obviously Van Halen, but Alex Lifeson is one that doesn't maybe get enough credit, for the way that he used it. Yeah. And wah is an interesting one. I was listening to the solo last night by just out of the blue, but "Run to the Hills" by Iron Maiden. And there's like wah right in the middle, just for like a minute. And it's like, oh, I never even really noticed that it was only right in that middle spot of the Dave Murray solo. He just kicks it on for a second, and that's how I kind of like to use wah. I mean, when it gets too much, when you hear it all the time in the solos or just the whole thing, it's annoying. I like doing things with wah and fuzz into like ambient stuff into a bunch of delay. Like, so if you've got a real like I happen to have my hyper fuzz on my desk here right now. I love this pedal. These are hard to find now, but this is one of my favorites for a buffer friendly fuzz that just really sounds cool too. Doesn't respond to the volume control on the guitar or any of that stuff. It's kind of always on, but it's sort of a take on almost a Big Muff sort of sound, I guess. It does a great thing with a wah into some ambient, like a black hole reverb or something. You just wah, with like a dark chord, and then it tails out into the reverb. And you open up the filter with the wah, that can sound amazing. So there's no right or wrong way to use it. There's just a few ideas on how to do it, maybe outside of the norm. And it gives you another color to go to when you're, if you're in your solo and you're feeling like tapped out or maxed out, you don't know what to do. You can just stand on the wah and, then bend a double stop or whatever, and it sounds cool. So, yeah. Music Life there says, when I was a kid, I heard Jeff Beck try to emulate his vibrato. Yeah. He used to do, I feel like he used to play slide more or something. And then he like kind of just learned how to do that with the bar, and then he started adopting the bar as his way to bend almost, like, cause I really paid attention when I saw him play the last time. And I noticed he doesn't really bend strings that much. He bends the bar all the time and he never tunes. So I sort of think the guitar is probably relatively out of tune a lot of the time, but it doesn't matter because it's almost like a human voice to him where he's always bending into a note, right? He's always hitting a pitch and then kind of bending around it. And the way he plays it, he almost uses the guitar and its inherent flaws of pitch bending, kind of, finding the note or whatever, almost like a violinist would slide into a note and then use their ear to tune or something. I feel like that's the way he plays, but maybe I'm wrong, when he, towards the latter part of his career, I just feel like that I tried to really pay attention to it. I've never seeing him tune. He's playing the same guitar all night. He's using the bar all the time, but I don't really see him bending strings either. He tends to use the bar to play bending anything, up, down, whatever. So that's just an observation I made. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought I saw. Let's see here. C-Post says, I'm looking for a Sir Standard Custom. What do I think of those? Well, I love the standard body shape, which is the body shape of my signature model as well. And the guitar that I really based my original signature model on was kind of a standard that was a custom kind of thing. It was called a Mahogany Deluxe. It was mahogany back, flame maple top with 2 humbuckers and a trem. And I played one at the shop and I loved it. And I was like, this is amazing. I want to order something like this, but maybe not the flame top. I want to get like a solid top. So I ordered the red back, black top. And that was the basis for my first signature model. And I just, it was based off of kind of a customized or custom order. Well, I guess they were a model that they, sir, sometimes they'll make a certain number of a certain spec of guitar. And they called that one the Mahogany Deluxe. So probably not dissimilar to what you're talking about. Fuzz before wah or opposite. Whatever sounds good. I mean, like the wah after the fuzz will be more dramatic. Sorry. A little congestion issue here right now. I don't know why I'm not sick. Snorting. It's disgusting. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, fuzz and wah. So anytime you put wah after distortion or EQ after distortion, it tends to be more dramatic. It's interesting. If you think about even like a plexi, the EQ is, if you watch that Yngwie interview with Beato, where he talks about the gain being linear all the way through the amp, that has something to do with it. Like, so when you put EQ, so in a plexi, the way they've got the gain stages arrayed, and then the EQ, and then the next gain stage, or phase inverter or whatever after the way the gain is kind of linear all the way through the preamp. Like, it's got it doesn't do like tons, the EQ on a plexi. It's not as dramatic as the EQ, say, on a JCM 800 or a 2203 or 2204, right? Well, the reason for that is because you're putting the gain in front of, there's another gain stage in front of the EQ. And anytime you do that, it seems the EQ coming after that gain and distortion has more of an effect. It's just like if you take an EQ pedal and you run it in front of distortion, yeah, you can get kind of a cocked wah kind of thing, or scoop, or tighten up the lows, but it doesn't radically change the amp sound itself. But if you put the EQ in the effect loop of an amp and then scoop it out, it'll sound like a different amplifier. It's the key to the Mesa Boogie thing. There's, the graphic. You can really shape the tone of the amp with that graphic because it's coming after so much of the distortion shaping. So anyways, thinking of a wah as a big filter kind of EQ, if you put the wah after fuzz or after distortion, let's take Tom Morello as an extreme example, right? He used to run his wah in the effect loop of them, and that's how he got wow, 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 right? Because it was so dramatic, because the wah is coming after all of the preamp tone shaping, then it's doing this overall filter sweep on the entire guitar sound. So if he'd put the wah in front, it would sound not nearly as dramatic, So, yeah. That's a long dissertation on, basically, I could have just said wah after distortion or fuzz, more dramatic. Wah before, more subtle. All right, what else we got here? Let's see. Hendrickson SRV introduced me to wah. Of course, I had to have one. Yeah, I would say me too, But, a lot of people used wah in the 70s, and that was one of the only effects, so we heard it all the time, Yeah. Yeah. Jeff used wah, I guess, right? What about, what's that song? Ain't Superstitious, right? Off Truth. We're trying to make the guitar sound like a cat, I guess. That song is so cool. Big Boss says he never tunes. Well, I didn't see him tune. I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl last time I saw him. It was quite a while ago. It was 2015 or 16, I think, the last time I saw Jeff Beck play live. But I just remember watching him really closely and really noticing that he was playing the same guitar, and he would just go song to song, and he wouldn't really ever tune. Never saw him look at the ground, and he just went song to song to song and used the bar aggressively all night. And I was like, well, if you're mainly playing melody and you're not playing a lot of even dyads and stuff, he mainly plays melody. He plays like a lead singer, and it's like you can kind of just use your ear and bend around the notes then, right? And get it, and because a big part of his sound, I mean, when he plays like A Day in the Life or something, right? And you think about, he plays like a singer, and it's a lot of all the notes. The pitch, part of his magic in his sound is that he doesn't hang on a fretted note very long. Like, he's bending around he's playing it like that's why he sounds like Jeff Beck. He's like, to me, I mean, he's like working around the pitch all that much in the way that a slide player plays. It's part of the magic of Derek Trucks. I mean, like the way he plays slide and the melodies he plays, he's constantly, I think there's something that our ear likes about that, about the not fretted, the pitch evolving and kind of moving all the time, I guess that's kind of what, I mean, I had Ron Thal on Bumblefoot, a couple weeks ago, and I think that's part of his thing with the fretless thing too. And even some of the sounds that, when I was listening to his music and realizing that he'll make these sounds that kind of and then play them on the fretless neck that have a lot of, either phaser or like, modulation or delay, like the way that the filters, and so the note is always evolving, like, so that when he's holding a note, it's constantly kind of moving, and I find that, really interesting. Almost to emulate. This is taking me back to my very first music lessons when I started on violin, and I remember my teacher clearly telling me, this is 1981 or 80 or something. I remember my teacher saying, the violin is the closest instrument to the human voice, and because we can emulate the shape of the notes and the way sliding into things and the vibrato and stuff, and also just the whatever the range of the violin, and the range of the human voice. Maybe that was his thing, but I was, that stuck with me at 9 or 10 years old when I started, that you could emulate the human voice and kind of the way a singer sings on an instrument. But anyways, it's a key to, I think, having solos that connect, because maybe it's just something about the sound of the voice is, the closer you can get to that, and the a vowel or the pitch is kind of working around in the way that a voice does. Maybe as humans we just connect with that on some sort of intrinsic level or something. It's kind of an interesting thing, and that's why we like guitar players like Derek and Jeff Beck and stuff, I think, because they really sing on the instrument. Part of why I love he's a guitar player, and I'm spacing on his name now, so I'm not going to say it. I'll think of it later. Anyways, I got a little slow in the morning these days. You got to blow out the carbon before I attempt to remember things. Okay, have you updated your H90 to the new firmware update? No, I'm always terrified of firmware updates. The last time I tried to do that, I don't remember what happened, but it locked me out of using the editor for a while. And I was like, oh, we don't like that. Is there a reason I should do it? Because I just get scared of firmware updates, like anything. It's just like that, man. I mean, the other day I was trying to finish a YouTube video, and I'm sure you guys have this happen all the time, but maybe you have a program on one computer and then you also have it on your other computer. And if you're working on I'm talking about Final Cut, working on a video on one computer, and then I go to my other computer, it's like this pro or whatever project was created on another version of Final Cut Pro. So you have to update your computer or the Final Cut on your computer to get the project open. I'm like, oh. So then I do that, and then so then I did that. Then I take my laptop home to edit. I've got all my plugins on iLok, or tons of them are on an iLok key. And I get my laptop home, and Final Cut opens, and for the first time, it always tries to authorize all your audio plugins. I never use audio plugins in Final Cut Pro. I do all my audio in Logic. I don't do any audio stuff in Final Cut. I don't need my plugins in Final Cut. But you think I can figure out a way to not, the authorization process when you download a new version of Final Cut or Logic, it always goes through that. And if you've got 400 plugins on your computer, it's going to authorize every single one. It's going to be like, do you have an iLok for this? Do you have an iLok for this? Do you have the iLok key for this? Do you have the iLok key for this? You guys know what I'm talking about if you do any of this stuff. And it's like, well, I was going to put a video out today, but I guess that's not going to happen because of all this bullshit that I got to deal with. Okay, I'll stop complaining now. I am thinking it's time for a new computer in here, though. Gonna get a new after touring and stuff. I've got more touring come up in the new year. I'll make some money and stuff like that, and I'll be able to justify probably Mac Studio. I think the little brick-looking thing, and a new monitor and stuff, and we'll be screaming in here. I don't mean screaming like ah. I mean we'll be screaming fast. Okay. What pedal would be good after Big Muff to brighten the muddiness? Any old EQ. I mean, you could use a Boss GE7 for something like that and really fine tune it in. As a matter of fact, I think that's what Gilmore does. Doesn't he have an EQ for every, he's got multiple EQ pedals to tune his fuzzes and stuff, and different ones, I think, for different settings. But yeah, you could use you could always use something programmable too to get different sounds, like a Boss. They make a graphic EQ that's programmable in their 200 series. I did a video for it. What's your practice routine? Man, I don't really have a practice routine, although when I'm learning songs for tour, which I got to get into again pretty quick, even though I just did it. Excuse me, a lot of touring this year. and learned a lot of songs and stuff. So I guess that's just what I'm doing right now. But when I do that, I tend to get into a bit of a routine where I set up a rig, and then every day I kind of try and maybe at a similar time of day I'll sit down and work through the tunes and program. I like to program the sounds into my switcher and all that, and have all my delay times and all that stuff all dialed for the different songs. And so I get into a habit of kind of doing that 5 days or maybe 6 days a week and taking a day off. And that's the most routine I ever get. One of the things I'll do is use transcribe a lot, which is a phrase trainer. And when I use transcribe, I like to loop certain sections, or if there's problem areas like solo, like when I learned Burn, say by Deep Purple, I in transcribe you can store little locator points. So I looped the solo, and I had that stored as a locate, so that I could just play over the solo over and over and over and over. And when I pull it up the next time, I could in transcribe, I could still just hit that loop and cycle that part and practice the hard parts. So I'll do things like that. I try and learn. Did a whole video about this actually. And by the way, it's in my So You Want to Be a Pro Musician thing, but it's about kind of learning material for sets or auditions or things like that. But basically, I'll try and learn 2 or 3 songs a day, maybe for a period of time. So let's say I learn 2 or 3. The next morning, I'll come back and go over those 2 or 3 just to try and solidify or lock it in, or work on any parts that I didn't get down completely the day before. I'll then learn a couple more, do the same thing the next day. Let's review, learn a couple more, and I might do that for 3 days. And then say on the 4th day, I'll probably review, because now I'm up to 8 or 9 tunes, and I'll just review those. And then I'll take a day off, let it all kind of sit in there. Next day, go back to it. Same thing, 2 or 3 tunes, learn a couple more the next day while reviewing the ones that I did the day before. And I do that until I've learned everything. So, yeah. So like, I got to learn quite a bit of stuff coming up. It's not that many tunes, but they're challenging, but it's going to be really fun. It's great songs for, touring CRS in January and stuff. So it'll be a lot of fun. Great tunes. I can't tell you what, but have you ever played through Greg Koch's Little Gristle? No. Wonder how it compares to Sir Ombre. Well, an Ombre is basically a straight up Brown Princeton, right? Isn't that what it is? An Ombre or Brown Deluxe, I think. Brown Deluxe. That's what I meant. And so if the Gristle's, if it's close to that, then it's probably pretty similar. But it's almost like the Ombre, at least, a little bit of a proto Marshall kind of sound, because the circuit is not unlike a Marshall at all. The kind of the topology of the circuit. So, yeah. Okay. What else we got? I'm enjoying drinking coffee right now. There's Ben. What's up, Ben? How you doing? Everything good? Mr. Coombs. Hope you're well. Let's see. Did you get to see Killers of the Flower Moon? I haven't seen it yet. Thought about seeing it the other day and then realized how long it is. So 3 hours and 20 minutes. Sounds like a good movie though. But that was a little bit of a commitment that I felt like was a little too late the day that I was going to go see it. I'm like, I will fall asleep. So Chris UK says, I always strive for a Schenker tone with my wah. I don't seem to be able to get anywhere near close unless the wah is first in the chain. Well, it could be the way that he ran it. I don't think he really used a lot of effects. So if he's running that in front of a Marshall, basically, it's wah in front of distortion. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I remember guys trying to get Tom Morello's wah sound, putting it in front of the amp. They were ignoring me about putting it in the loop. Well, you knew what was what. Can you comment on RR more distortion use application, the cleverness of the MXR? I think you're talking about Randy Rhoads and use of the distortion plus. So Randy used to use a distortion plus into a Marshall, and it baffled me a little bit. Maybe some of you guys saw the video I made on the third guitar that was made for Randy by Jackson. a while ago. It was a year or two ago that I put out a video, maybe 2 years now. It could be. Time's flying. But anyways, if you watch that video, I think I got a pretty cool sound in it to play the stuff that I played in it. But I wasn't able to do it with the Distortion Plus and the Marshall. It just didn't sound quite right to me. So I used something, I think I used a Boss Super Overdrive or something like that. And I got a sound that I was quite happy with. I thought it sounded cool. Well, anyways, fast forward a couple months after I put out that video, Guitar World actually put out an article on Randy and his gear and his rig and stuff and how he used to run it. And there was settings in there. So one of the key things is that he used to use an EQ with the Distortion Plus. So he would use the Distortion Plus into the Marshall, and then he'd use the EQ to kind of shape the tone. And the way he had the EQ set was so kind of radical and interesting, according to Guitar World. But I said everything the way that Guitar World said in their little article, and lo and behold, it did really sound close. I was like, oh, this would have been helpful a couple months ago. Having said that, I was very happy with the sound I got in the video, so didn't really care. But it was interesting, and I thought whoever did this article in Guitar World did a really good job. And you know, I think people used to work with what they had. You know, now we got all these tools, and we can do, you know, amps kind of sound like incredible right out of the box. All the best mods are all, you know, documented, and you know, you can go to Friedman and basically get him to do a Jose mod that is the exact thing that, you know, would have been done to, you know, numerous different, you know what I mean? Like he knows all the tricks, and he knows exactly, like, and even the pitfalls and like, well, there's some things in it that I could actually do that might be technically a little bit better, but if you want it exactly the way you used to do it, I'll do it. You know, little things with like the first gain stage and how it sounds a little dark and kind of rolls off some top end, and like, but maybe you like that, you know, or way it interacts with the guitar, and it maybe sounds a little dull when you roll the volume down, but can sound cool with the volume all the way up. There's little things like that he's told me about that have to do with the way the gain boost kind of thing was implemented and in the front of the whole amp, and you know, it's got to do with just different sort of grounding scenarios and stuff like that, or rolling, you know, I don't know what it is, but anyway, he knows all about it. And it's like, you can basically get like, it's handed to you on a silver platter these days, relatively speaking, you know, and amps come out of the box and sound amazing. But back then people used to use what they could, you know, it was like, I don't know, I'll get a Marshall. It doesn't seem like enough distortion. I'll jack this pedal in the front of it that makes more distortion, but that doesn't sound very good. So let's try and use this EQ. Oh, there we go. You know, and you end up with something kind of cool and unique. You know, so it's an amazing time we live in. For those that just joined, look at this thing. Isn't this amazing looking? This is this double boost germanium box that a guy makes in Poland, and he sent it to me, and I have to make a video of it, but I plugged it in yesterday. It sounds awesome. You can see the two toggle switches. You can get a treble boost, says no, or full. It still does something in the no position though, even though somebody said no means no. It still is doing something there. So I don't know. I got to read the manual, Pete, then you'll know. But and there's a gain and a volume, so you got these two stages you can kind of jack into one another. But look at that thing, you know, it sounds really cool. I just love the idea of this sitting on top of your amp and people going like, what's that thing? What's that magic thing? Like the old days, you know. You know, maybe like famous guitar player would use this or something, or become famous with their sound, and then this would be worth like, you know, $10,000 or something. Oh boy. Let's see. There's a super chat there. I should grab that. I'm going to move all the way down to the bottom of the chat because I got slow. Let's grab that super chat from Matthew Kennedy. Been doing session guitar keys for producer friends since the pandemic. I'm graduating producing other artists or bands myself. From your experience, what makes a great producer? Well, your job is basically to deliver the best album that artist can make, you know, to help them achieve their artistic vision and bring it in on time and under budget. And, you know, maybe, take it beyond what they could do on their own, you know, be the voice of, one of the cool, things about a good producer, I think, is they might have a great overall vision of an entire body of work and what it should be like. we're missing this kind of song on this record, or, you know, that kind of thing. Like maybe we could use something halfway through the album to break up the, you know, if an album's got a lot of the same kind of like rhythms, or, you know, songwriters sometimes they can get in a groove and write a lot of the same kinds of songs, I find. And what was that band that I really liked them? Was it the National? Or, no, I can't remember the name of them. But anyway, they had that Sweater Weather song a few years ago. You know, it's too cold for you here. You remember that song? And I loved that song. I thought it was really great. And the mood, you know, it was great. But when I listened to the record, the only criticism that I had was like the songs all sound like that, like everything, similar vibe. And I was like, oh, it's like, yeah, really cool music, but it was like you got to break it up like rhythmically and stuff and do different, you know. So as a producer, I think one of the most important things is to have an overall view of the project, and you know, what it's supposed to be. Even if an artist records a song, you're like, this sounds great, or it's really cool, but maybe it's like, I don't know if it fits in on this, like, you know, if it's, or maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe that's the point with the whole project, is that it's super schizophrenic or something. So having a vision of that whole thing and helping the artist to, you know, because I can remember working for, say, like Linda Perry, and doing a great take in this, or we thought it was a great take. You know, we'd work really hard all night on a song. We'd come back to the studio the next day to go back to work. She'd go, we didn't get it last night. And then it'd be like, it was great when we left. She'd be like, the vibe wasn't right, you know, and be like, and you just kind of had to trust that. And generally she was, you know, correct. Like, it's like, yeah, it doesn't fit with the rest of what we're doing or something, like an overall, you know. And I remember her telling me, like, for instance, I made a record with Daniel Powder, the guy that did Bad Day. He said, you had a bad day. No, 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 no. I did this next record after that with her. And I remember her when we came into it and to work with him. He was a great guy. I really liked him. And we made a cool record, I think. But she had this like, don't try and make it, because I'm a rock guitar player, you know, just like, don't try and make him rock. Like, don't try and make it. He's Dan Fogelberg. That was her reference, you know. He's Dan Fogelberg. Embrace it. Embrace that, and just, that's what we're going to do. And I was like, okay, cool, I can work, you know, that gives me a framework of never to, you know, what'd be great is if we, you know, whatever, cranked up a Marshall and, you know, or whatever, you know. It was like, embrace his singer songwriter piano guy 70s kind of soft rock thing or whatever, you know. And that was great advice, you know. It just gave it like an overall picture of what we're trying to do here, a vibe. Because part of what we did with her that was really fun was she would always have a core band, you know, and sometimes bring other people in. But for a while, I was the guitar player in the core band that used to work in the studio. So our little band got to play with Pink and Alicia Keys and you know, James Blunt and like all these people, you know. But it was our group, and then the famous artist would come in and kind of join our band for a minute. And it was such a fun period of time. But of course, we had to morph a little bit with the artist and, you know, help them realize their vision. So Linda was always really on top of that, I think. So anyway, so hopefully that's some advice there. I know it's a little bit of a ramble, but you know, basically it's your responsibility to help them realize their vision and to make the best record that they possibly can at that particular time, you know. Yeah. Let's see. I'm not sure of this question, but I'm intrigued by it. I've been trying some open jams lately. I usually walk away feeling like a terrible player. Well, maybe those are the moments where we learn, though, you know, where it's like, I really need to go home and work on my bends because I can't bend in tune, or, you know, my dynamics, and then you kind of fall on your face a few times, and maybe you go back the next time and you do a little better, you know. And you've taken, if you already know everything, you're like, well, I was the best player there, and then you didn't learn anything, did you? You know. So I always said, you know, at least for a while, maybe I don't want to be now, but I used to say back, you know, I want to be the worst player in the band, like, because then I'm always learning and always trying to get better, you know, and learn from people. Now at my age now, I'm cool with being the middle guy in the band or whatever. Sounds like a lot of work to. But no, I mean, constantly learning and constantly moving forward is a great thing, and being, you know, kudos to you for putting yourself out there and be willing to, you know, feel a little humiliated or something like that, because that takes a lot of salt, and you know what I mean. It just requires a strong constitution or whatever, but then to walk away from it and actually go learn something and know what to take away from it and to practice and stuff is important, I think. Okay. Recently had an idea, a super chat from Rich. Thanks for your super chat as well. And Rich, thanks for your super chat. Any 2-note per string scale, play one of the notes twice, so your pick will have the down, up, down, or verse, vice motion. Okay, yeah, that's cool. A neat idea. Thanks for sharing. So do 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 do. I don't know what it would sound like, but yeah, that's a cool idea. I don't think too much about that. I in the 80s, I tried to work for a while on like economy picking, or for the Frank Gambale thing. I had his instructional video, and there was sweep picking, and then there was economy picking, which was like whenever the string is going in a direction, try and move to the next string then. Or at least if you're going to move to the next string, do it when the pick is headed down that way from your previous pick stroke, not when you just did an upstroke and then you want to go down. But anyway, I didn't have great success with that. It just felt very taxing or like limiting. Like the technique sort of dictated when I had to move to the next string, and I didn't want that. And then I saw guys like Steve Morse just burning through alternate picking and Al Di Meola and that, like playing, they were strict alternate pickers and they could rip through the strings. And I thought, this seems less limiting and I don't want to think about it that much. And sticking to a defined down, up, down, up, down, up motion seemed like more of my thing. So, and that was kind of like what other players, Paul Gilbert and certain other players, were doing. So I just found that a little bit more appealing. So I was always an alternate picker, but hey, if you got a cool thing going there, that's awesome. Some analog circuits do that. If you patch through an old Pultec, it adds to the sound even when bypassed. You guys are talking amongst yourselves, I guess. Leroy says, don't read the manual. Talking about this thing. That's no fun. Well, I just want to know what the no position is supposed to be, because it still does something. So treble, no, and full range boost. Treble boost. This is a bass cut knob. It's germanium, a germanium booster with 2 circuits in it. It sounds good. Sounds really cool. Only plugged it in for a minute the other day, but it's neat. Okay. What are my thoughts on the Marshall JMP? Would love for Marshall to re-release it. You mean like a set? Well, I mean, to be honest, I think the current 4-hole Marshalls that you can get, the SLP 100 and the 50, the 1987X, are pretty close to a JMP. They're closer to a JMP, I think, than they are to a Plexi. And so there's a few things that would be different, like the filtering and stuff. And so Friedman could tell you more about that, but you're not far off from it'd be neat if they made a like a metal panel, 50 and 100 watt that kind of replicated, a hand wired sort of thing. It'd be kind of neat. A 71 50 watt or something. That'd be kind of neat, to an aggressive 4-hole rock monster. But you're not, long story short, you're not far off with you could get a current SLP or 50 watt and, mod it however you want to be like, oh, can you make it a bit more like a 71 or 72 or a bit more like a 68, lower filtering, a little stiffer filtering, whatever, when working on a song, do you focus on the thirds and fifths of the chords you're playing over? Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll be like, I should really land on a, like when it's time. I mean, I use my ear a lot, right? But I'm constantly also thinking about I'm thinking about actually other notes. Like, it'd be cool to hang on the 9 and the 7 and not hit the root, or maybe 9th and then up to the 3rd and back to the 9th and then down to the 7th and then maybe hit the 5th and then back up to the 9, and like where I kind of work around a, you know what I mean? Like, so if you're, let me see. You're not going to hear this very well, but if you're in A, and let's say you're kind of go for an A minor thing, You know, the 9 to the 7. So here's the root. Right? And don't resolve. And then when you finally come home, it feels really good, you know? So I think about things in those terms sometimes. A 9 is a nice thing to start a melody on because it gives you this suspended kind of like, you know, so da, there's the A and da 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 da. I love that sound, like going from the 9 to the 7 and back and forth and just leaving it kind of hanging. And I think about, you know, those things a lot. And sometimes it's unconscious, you know. I guess I'm always like, I should avoid the root for a minute. Like I might think that much, but I'm not really thinking about the other notes I'm playing around. I'm just hearing it and then kind of hearing the melody. And then when I finally land back, I'm probably guilty of playing roots too much, you know. I'm a fairly basic rock player, really. So it's like, you know, there's times where I try and get out of that, you know. Music Life with Arthur says, I think some producers get known for having a signature production style. What's funny is knowing how many producers discovered their secrets by fighting with bands to get the best of the best. If you know, a great book is the Ted Templeman book. I really enjoyed reading it, and he's really a song guy. He is such a fan of songs, and so for many of the artists that he would work with, you know, if they weren't necessarily songwriters, maybe they were just singers. Looking for material for them would be, you know, that's a big part of the job of the producer. Trying to, you know, hone in on and decide with the artist like what songs they should sing. But I loved his, you know, the Doobie Brothers don't sound like Van Halen, don't sound like Montrose, don't sound like, you know, I mean, he's got all these different experiences of working with these different artists, and he was a producer to me that maybe didn't so much have a sound, you know. And you know, you're not really supposed to have a sound. I mean, I feel like the one of the best Paul McCartney albums of the last probably 30 years was the Chaos and Creation in the Backyard album. I'm going to look at I'm trying to remember the name of the producers, the guy that did Radiohead. So it was Nigel Godrich. And he did Radiohead and stuff, and I love that record, you know, and it's got songs like I'm just reading I'm reading the wiki right now. It's interesting. Upon being asked to produce an album with McCartney, Godrich admitted, my initial reaction was one of terror, not only because he's a very important person, but I wasn't sure how willing he would be to get his hands dirty. So interesting. I think they butt heads a lot on that record, was what I heard, but you know, I think that he challenged. Okay, here's some interesting stuff. McCartney in an interview said he appreciated Godrich's tenacity and honesty. And this is McCartney speaking. I've been on a lot of records on my own. I've had a lot of hits. He said, I just want to make a great album for the album to be you. Once we got in the studio and we're playing head to head on a couple songs I thought as good, and he didn't, I thought of immediately firing him. I just thought, I don't have to take this. But the point is, this is why you're working with him. That's what I like about the record. That's amazing because I've never read this before, but that's it. You can hear that on the record that he's challenged. And he refused to allow me to sing the songs he didn't like, which was very cheeky of him. You know, to do that to a guy like McCartney, you know, he was sometimes blunt in his appraisal of McCartney's songs in progress during the making of Chaos and Creation. It's a terrific record. Now, I know that he didn't use the band, you know, which is, you know, my good friends are playing that band. I remember Brian Ray plays in that band and stuff, and I think that was kind of a sticking point. But I think it was just kind of like, I think from what I understood, he really wanted Paul to play as much as possible, kind of like his first solo record, where he's playing the majority of the parts, you know. But anyway, if you haven't listened to that record, listen to it. There's a song called Jenny Wren on it. That to me is as good as a Beatles song. You know, I know that's a big statement, but to me, it's amazing. you know. And I just love the vibe on the record. And I think he was going through a breakup too then. I mean, I think he and his wife at the time split. And you can hear some of that in there's a song called Friends to Go, I think, or something. I've been waiting for your friends to go. It's kind of got a great I spent a lot of time on my own. Remember that song? It's a great song. But anyways, yeah, just a terrific record, I think. And no, obviously, not all producers are going to butt heads with the artist. That's not what makes great music necessarily. But I think in this case, it worked. Because of Paul McCartney being who he is, and maybe he needed to have a little of that pushback back at that time in order to end up with. But he says I could fire him. I don't have to take this. But then I thought, no, this is why I hired him. It's cool, It's like, yeah. I mean, if you could do it on your own, why hire somebody? Why give them points? Why, So, Hollywood Actress says, you mentioned James Blunt. What album or song did you take part in? I have no idea. I played on something, but I don't remember what. It was a long time ago. I worked with him for a couple days. I don't even remember how many tunes we did. We might have done 1. We might have done 3. I can't remember, but I did something with him. And that's like a lot of things back then. It's 2007 or 8 that I did that. So it's so long ago that I don't recall. He was a nice guy. I did an entire album with Daniel Powder. And I'm not even going to remember the name of the record. I'm sorry, but it's the record that was after the one with Bad Day on it. I'm play guitar on that whole record. So yeah, it's been a long life is long. Anyways, moving down through the chat here. Did you ever do anything at Ultimate Jam Night at Lucky Strike? Yeah, I did, and I still do sometimes. I play Ultimate Jam Night is now at the Whiskey. Originally, I believe it was at Lucky Strike, and then they redid the Lucky Strike one. They now call it Soundcheck Live, and it's happening again. It's certain Wednesdays, maybe the last Wednesday of the month or something. Or it used to be every week, and then that just got to be too much. But and I'll go down sometimes and play there, or play at the Whiskey. It's kind of an organized jam. It's basically cover songs. I mean, you're going down, you're getting up with some friends, and you're playing a couple covers. I did at what used to be Ultimate Jam and then became Soundcheck Live. One time I got to do a curated set of whatever we wanted to do. So I got together with Glenn Sobel from Alice Cooper's band, Eric Dover, and I'm forgetting his name right now. He's great, but the bass player that does Atomic Punks. And we did the whole first side of Diver Down, which is really cool. I played a bunch of stuff I've never played anywhere else. Like I did Hang 'em High, and you can find it on YouTube. It turned out really cool. It's fun. I did Cathedral. It was fun. But yeah, and also kind of like, I guess, challenging to get up and play Hang 'em High and play Cathedral and play all this stuff, like with basically almost no rehearsal. I did get together and go over a couple things with Glenn, but Glenn plays great Alex Van Halen. He was really good at it, and that helped a lot because it was just all there on the drums, and it made it like, makes all the difference in the world, actually. You need somebody back there killing it, so that you've got, in those moments when you're playing some crazy Van Halen song, you've got the confidence. And even if you're like, well, it doesn't really matter because they're back there killing it on the drums, and then you just get right back in the groove. So Sobel's great that way. Do you compensate missing a cable when going wireless? Always found a 20-foot cable sounded the best. I don't really think about it that much, but I mean, I probably just compensate on the amp to make it sound good for what I'm using, probably add a little less treble than I would or something. I agree with you. I mean, I love the sound of a good 20-foot cable, 18 feet cable, 20 feet cable sounds really good to me. Sometimes just a 10-foot cable is a great, that's what I use here. I'm using these 10-foot cables that Vemoram made for me. Going into my pedal board, and then it's basically buffered out of that. So, by the way, I'm going to do a little video for this today. This is the Buddy G pedal from Vemoram. This is a boost with a little EQ. It's kind of a dirty boost. It's got a gain stage in it that lends some grind and saturation to the signal, and it's a really nice pedal, and a great way to kick the front end of an amp and have some fun. So boosts, this is what we got, fancy boosts around here today, boosts and drivers. Yep. One thing I have sitting here is the new Fender modeler, and we're gonna take a look at that a little later today. Get into it. There it is, the Tone Master Pro. Should we do a little live unboxing? I haven't even opened it yet. It's quite a nice. Excuse me. How rude of me. There it is. Wow. It's a substantial looking piece of kit, as you would say in the UK. Kind of reminds me of the big buttons. It looks like a G system a little bit. These look sturdy as hell, I'll say that. The buttons seem really robust. What do we got? Wow, it's like a whole array of in and out on the back here. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of loops. That's nice. I didn't actually realize that there's a ton of effects loops. Getting closer to the G system here. We got an instrument input there, mic line input. Got 4 loops, outputs, XLRs, and 1/4 inch. Auxiliary input there, an 1/8 inch. That looks for tracks or something. There's phones. A second output here, so I guess you could route to a power amp if you wanted to or something. That's nice. What's that say? Toe switch. Like a switch there. Expression pedal, 2 expression pedal jacks, and control. That's cool. So you can channel switch. Micro SD card slot. That's interesting. I don't know what that's for. USB, MIDI in and out. Looks really, really, I'll say it's like tough looking. So that's cool. I'm going to get into it. I'm actually quite excited to check this out. Having seen all that. It's a nice, it's sturdy as hell. Nice job so far, Fender. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. I'm going to make a video for them, for that unit, obviously. That's why it's here. But they asked me to do some things that they haven't seen other people do. So I'm going to try and do a few things here, like definitely incorporating it with an amp and things. So is there a website for this booster? So free range. It's called the free range. Here, let me look a little closer to the name here on it. Turn on my little light. Analog Wise pedals. One word, Analog Wise pedals. And it's called the free range. So I think if you Google it, you'll find it. I will say it sounds great. Like, right, I plugged it in. It's like, it does what you want it to do. Range mastery with a, level of, control over the low end and stuff, and just creates like a ripping tone, so it's pretty neat. So as I get more into it, I will let you know. What else we got here? Let's see. Have you ever listened to much Blackberry Smoke? Only a little bit, not too much. Charlie Starr is just a great player. I should check them out more. I should. Let's see. Eston says Tim Pierce's master class is also on sale. Super good deal, $99. That's great. So that's $99 for the full year. Is that right? My good buddy Tim. Yeah. Lauren says the pushback is what made the young artists great, and older artists can find their groove is really a rut. Their groove is really a rut. That's an interesting take, Lauren. I like that. Are you in a groove or are you in a rut? That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, to get older artists out of their, push back a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like when I heard that new Rolling Stones, which I've been raving about, they did say Mick said Andrew Watt kicked their butts, like made them really just step up, and it's a great record, man. So I don't know, whatever he did, it worked. But yeah, I think that if you can, just drop the ego and realize what got you to where you got, and realize that it was a lot of hard work, and maybe, sometimes listening to others and you don't know everything and all that stuff. Like, just get into that zone. I was talking to a big producer a little while ago, and he said, I really like working with younger artists. And we were talking about with relation to a legacy artist, a big famous, like one of the most famous people in the world, kind of legacy artist. And he was talking about just his experience of like this kind of having a frustrating experience at the time, and saying, this is why I like working with young artists. And I get that. I understand that frustration. Even as a touring guy, it's like, I love doing it, and I love playing with, great singers and some of the, biggest singers and stuff like that. It's like incredible. But there's also a thing with like working with young people where it's like, or doing, I love playing classic rock show, because we don't have any of that in the band when it comes. We get to play great music, but we don't have the sometimes, I love all the people I've worked with, but you know what I'm talking about. That's sometimes just what comes with fame and stuff like that, and the level of like, and it always seems to add a little bit of a layer of pressure, and some are better than others, but there's a nice thing about just playing great music and celebrating the music, and everybody's on the same page. And certainly when you get older, it's like you maybe have less tolerance for like the crazy behavior of. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're just like, can we just play the music and not like, it's like nobody's here. We're not heart surgeons saving lives here. We're doing an important work, but our job is to make people happy, and that's it at the end of the day. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to say more. Yeah. Not picking on any particular, I love all the folks I've worked for. How different is the Thornbucker versus Thornbucker Plus? The Thornbucker Plus has a little bit more, you say oomph. Pearly Gates, you're probably hearing the, that's kind of the difference. Is probably between Pearly Gates and a Thornbucker Plus is probably similar to like, like a 59 versus a 78 or something like that, from Seymour Duncan. Something that's got a little bit more kick, a little bit more mids. The more you wind the pickup, one of the basic things that happens is it tends to shift that resonant peak lower and give a little more push in the mids, a little more output, but also a little more push at a certain frequency, So, when a pickup is a little unwound, it can have a bright, stringy thing that's real cool, clarity and stuff, but you might find that there's not a ton of sustain, and it's not pushing the amp very hard, and it's not pushing the amp in that kind of upper mid frequency that might drive a note into feedback or whatever. So when you get a little more wind on a pickup, it might close down the clarity a little bit, but you might find it's giving you a peak in something that just mates with your amp in a beautiful way. So that's part of the search, I think, is finding all that magic, thing. Teammate says, do they still do that jam at the Lucky Strike? Yeah, so it's still going on. It's called Soundcheck Live, I think. So just do a Google search for I think they did it this past week. Soundcheck Live Hollywood. Let's see. I think it's there's a bunch of stuff on it here. There's a Facebook page. It wants me to sign into Facebook. I don't feel like doing that. There's a bunch of stuff here. 2 days ago, like they did it in October on the 29th. I think it's the last Wednesday every month. Here's a news article about it. So let's see. Steve Ferlazzo, there's a picture of Sebastian Bach and Nuno and Orianthi at the Soundcheck Live. Okay. I'm trying to just look for what day it happens on here so I can tell you guys. I don't know, but if you do a Google for it, there's a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lucky Strike Live. Check that out, and you'll find the times when they do it, because yeah, it's happening. And then it's every Tuesday at the Whiskey is the ultimate jam night, and that still goes on, and it's a lot of fun. And you'll find my friend Toshi Yanagi down there playing quite a bit, or different people. Would you refer to the BE or your SIG as a modded Plexi or 2203? There's not a whole ton of difference between a 2203 and a Plexi. There's just a little bit of difference. So I think, yeah, you might ask if it's sort of semantics, but you might find Friedman refers to it as a modded Plexi and Sir refers to it as a modded 800. I think, and we're not talking about a ton of difference here. We're talking about a Plexi with a gain stage added, really, and then some other values changed and stuff. I think with Dave. Okay, so one of the things about Dave is he likes the sort of lower Plexi filtering, and you might find that his B, because that's a big part of it, not just the way the gain structure is, but the filtering. You might find Dave says Plexi because he's probably leaning a bit more at Plexi filtering with just another gain stage. So, yeah. I think it's all kind of, they're modded Marshalls, basically. It's Marshalls with extra gain stages, just depends where you put them. And then there's other aspects like the filtering spec and stuff, and the presence and the way it's done, and yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Brian says, "What do you think of Third Secret?" I don't know what that is. What is that? Murray says, "No one has." I'm not sure what that means, but no one has something the Tone Master as the heart of a pedal board. That'd be cool. Yeah. Well, I think they'd like to see me do something along the lines of like, using it with an amplifier, maybe 4-cable method. So I think I'll try that. PT15 seems like a real natural fit with it. So I'm going to try that, using it with that. And then also do some, find some cool sounds. But primarily try and maybe make a video where I use it in a few different ways. I'm going to get into that pretty quick. I need to make this video for this Vemaram pedal. I'm going to get that done today, I think. That's my goal. Try and knock that out today. I'm putting out a video tomorrow, by the way, for the Missing Link Audio Anthem pedal. So nice dual overdrive with a boost that was made to capture the tones of Leonard Skinner. But I found it just to be a good overdrive and distortion box in its own right, and I did my own thing with it. So that video will be coming out tomorrow, and then the Vemaram video also put out this week. But then I got to get into this Fender project, and that's probably going to take a few days. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it actually. Ian says, "I don't care for hip hop or Andrew Watt." Well, I mean, do you like the Stones record? Is all I'm saying. Because he made an amazing record. So I think he. What don't you like about him? I don't know. Stone's record's really cool, So what we think of the man outside of that, he made a nice production. I'll say that. I got to give him credit. I mean, I don't think anybody could have done a better job. That's how much I like it. It's a terrific record. One of the best, if not the best, late career albums I've ever heard a band do. I'll say that. If you haven't listened, give it a listen. Can you use a distortion drive pedal in the effects loop on a JCM 800? It won't sound good, but yes, you can. You could run just a pedal, like, a BEOD or something right into the loop of an 800 and use the pedal as the preamp. But if you run the preamp of the amp and then go into that, it's going to sound like probably really bad, I would say. You can run a gain pedal, like a clean boost in the loop to get more volume, to kick the power stage of the amp harder and turn it on for solos and stuff. That's okay, but I don't... Yeah, I mean, I've been proven wrong many times, but I think adding a gain stage after an 800 and after it's weird. It's probably not going to work very good. Who knows? One of you guys is going to try it, and you're going to make the best guitar sound ever or something, probably. But all right. Yeah, Paul says Cornell was like that, zero ego. Yeah, Chris really he was unique specimen, he had a very confident and he was always introspective and always learning, I would say. And he had a very confident thing about him, but it never came off as. I mean, he could be not stern, but I guess. I mean, I've seen him mad, but maybe rightfully so. He was really great as far as somebody at that level of fame that managed to still maintain a lot of humility and always humor. He loved to laugh, and he was he was a special one for sure. Different kind of guy, and yet respected by so many. And maybe that's why, like, he was such a talent, and he was just incredible. But when you realize like that you know eh, the respect that he got from everybody, like when you had Jimmy Page showing up, or Brian May standing there watching him from the side of the stage, pretty much the biggest musicians in the world all respected him at a very, very, very high level. And also, like, movie directors and, like, people, like all these people. But he was just such a normal guy. Like, he was such a good, down to earth cat. He was just so talented and always introspective and stuff. And I think people were drawn to that guy. The best were drawn to him. For like, how does he tap into that thing? And it was just like, and but he always really treated people with respect, and even like local crew or people that you sometimes see other rock star types just sort of dismiss, or they don't give him the time of day. Like, he would never do that. He was always like really respectful and just kind of like a normal cat. So really cool. Good guy, yeah. Yeah, Scott says a lot of older bands or artists just kind of sit on the laurels a bit. But, maybe like understandably, like, I mean, you get older and it's like, do you have the same fire that you did? It's okay. You can back off, we're not these machines, we're human beings, and I want to say, if you want to stay relevant, you have to keep creating, like Bowie did, or Chris, or, you have to keep creating. But maybe some people don't care about being relevant. Maybe they just want to chill on a beach or something, and that's fine too. So, but if you're going to make a record, you might as well go for it. I think, like, you might as well make a statement. And so don't phone it in on the record, or just do what's easy, or what you've done in the past, or you don't want anybody to fight with you. Like, I found that article I just read, like the McCartney thing, so fascinating, because he is a guy that would be hard to go toe to toe with and argue with, or say, I don't like that song. Right? He plays you a new song, and he maybe wrote it and you decided about it, like, that's not very good. Like, that'd be a very difficult thing to say to somebody like him. But I got to say, that record is really high level. I mean, that they came up with, so I don't know, all right. What's the role of the record producer? I feel like it's changed a lot. Well, the record producer is basically still, it's the same job as it always was, which it's a super, super broad, your job is really to deliver the project on time and under budget, but what does that mean? It's like, can mean a lot of different things. I mean, it's like Rick Rubin's approach to record production seems to be more about creating a vibe and putting a team together, the engineer and the people that, and also a vibe, like, the right studio, the right environment for that artist to flourish. But he's not a musician. So I just watched the Wallflowers. Sorry, not the Wallflowers. What's the friggin' Tom Petty record? Wildflower? Is that what it's called? The Tom Petty record from the 90s, the famous the famous Wildflowers. Yeah, amazing record. I watched the documentary on the plane on the way home from Japan on the making of that record, and he talks a lot about how Rick's not a musician, but he's just loves music, and he tried to create, like, the environment that he kind of created, because I think Tom and the band had worked a lot with Jeff Lynne and stuff, and it was a different sort of approach, So then when he did Wildflowers, he just kind of switched it up or whatever, did a different thing, and it obviously worked. But Yeah, I mean, for questions on production, I would watch things like that documentary, and see the different approaches that people take. I find it all fascinating. Take away a band like Rush sounded when they had Terry Brown producing. I always wish they made one more record with Terry Brown. Would have been really cool, but that never happened. But I loved the sound of his records, and it could have been just the time too and the technology. When they went to, I think it was Rupert Hine that produced, wasn't it, that did Grace Under Pressure, and then they went to Peter Collins for Power Windows. And so they were experimenting with different producers, but the sound was changing. It got very 80s, more modern, more, it's cool still. I mean, I like those records, but that early, moving pictures and signals, the sounds of those records, the warmth of those records, I find really like a blanket. It's just appealing to me. I love those guitar and drum and keyboard, analog keyboard sounds and stuff. That was so like, I don't know, it just evokes a feeling at a time for me that is special, so anyways, production's an amazing thing, and I guess I'm just saying, I guess a guy like Terry Brown had a signature sound or stamp that he kind of put on it, but it was definitely like some of that band's legacy biggest craziest work. I don't know where I'm going with all this. What else we got here? Let's see. Yeah, this is a good point here from Earl. The most humble egos I met were the most amazing players: John McLaughlin, Alan Holdsworth, Adrian Belew, Tony Levin, and goes on and on. And Lukather, like I'm sure a guy like Lukather knows. I mean, he knows his contributions and he knows what he's really good at, and he's very confident, but he's also a happy guy that's happy to be, I think, like making music and out there doing it and appreciate, he's like, I got a positive mental outlook. He's a sweet, fun guy. He's always joking around and stuff. And, to have, I guess ego or insecurities or stuff are always the things that seem to screw up, the vibe or whatever, and so if you can be confident without being, because you've got to be confident, but if you can be confident without being thinking that you're God's gift or whatever, that you're just good, you know how to do the job, and we're doing a job, and it's like, and that you just, now let's have fun and do the job together and make a great, and I'm gonna do my best, and it's like, if you're always in that mode, I don't know, I'm always trying to be in a state of gratitude these days, for I mean, look at you guys. We got 375 people still online. You guys are, I'm glad anybody cares to listen to me rant for 2 hours. What are y'all doing? You got something else better to do today? Anyways, I know I don't. I want to be here with you guys. So Andy Timmons seems to be playing Sir Amps quite a bit. He is, yeah. Is there something in the works, an endorsement, now that the Lone Star is no longer in production? Well, I can't comment on any of that. I know that Andy's really enjoying playing a few of the amps, and we'll see what happens. Talk about a great guy with a great attitude. I love that guy, and great tones. He's a lovely dude. So we'll see. But yeah, he is playing the amps and enjoying them, and I mean, we'll see what comes of that. Oh, that's the Third Secret you were talking about. Third Secret is a band with Kim from Soundgarden, Chris from Nirvana. So I did listen to them a little bit. I remember when it came out, but I'll confess I haven't. I should go back and listen because Kim's going to be on my show Sunday Live soon. I thought you were talking about a pedal or something, Let me show you. I have a guitar here. Let me show you. I'm going to show you. We'll talk about this. It's a little precursor, but we'll talk about this when the time comes. Check this out. It's a Kim Guild. This is his signature model. Look at the cool coloring on the fingerboard of this guitar. Isn't that cool? Like the rosewood. It's got that light stripe in the middle. Fun guitar, though. This was just sent by Guild so that I could talk a little bit about it during the interview with Kim, and I can ask him questions and stuff like that. I haven't even gotten into it yet or used it on anything. Maybe I will today for something, but it's got this mini toggle here, which I assume is a coil tap, and that's pretty neat. So anyways, cool guitar, you know, basically a Guild's version of an SG, right? Pretty fun. It's hanging up here next to my old Jackson, which was one of my very first guitars that I've had since I was 16. Kind of fun. What else have we got here? Let's see. Looking for a 335, just wondering what you look for in a 335. You know, I love mine. There's something about them where they there's a lot of air around each note. You know, the hollow body does something where there's this character. The note feels a little more alive, and if you can kind of harness the way that because they can tend to feed back a little bit, but if you can just use the right amount of gain, not go over the edge, and the right amount of volume, you can get them feeding back a little bit. It's really cool. And feeling the air, you'll feel the air pump out of the sound hole on the guitar in a way that's very, you know, unique to a 335. It's just cool. I don't know how to describe it, but when they're at volume and the feedback starts to happen, this air thing happens. It's wild. Those of you that have ever played one loud knows what I'm talking about. So my niece Hurt says, I thought Kim was going to be on Sunday Live. Did I miss it? No. It's the 10th of December, so we're still a ways off, and that will be it'll be 2 weeks from now, right? And that'll be at 2 p.m. So it's going to be a unique time. 2 p.m. That's when he would like to do it, and of course I'm going to be amenable to that. So for those in Europe, you'll have to stay up late. So anything about a 335 to consistent models in your opinion? I don't know. I mean, really, I haven't played. I mean, like any guitar, I'm sure you're going to find dogs and you're going to find great ones, you know, from every era. So I would just say play a lot of them and find something that seems to float your boat. You know, I like a lot of the kind of a soft spot for some of the like early 80s Ibanez, and you know that you'd see Schofield play. Dave Friedman loves his Yamaha. He's got a Yamaha that's a 335, and he raves about it. There's a lot of good versions of that guitar out there. I think Collings makes some nice ones as well. But I would probably look for a historic reissue, 61 reissue or something from Gibson, and try and find something like that is cool. Earl said Third Secrets music is sublime. Okay, I'm going to check it out more then. I'm going to do a hefty amount of research ahead of that, having Kim on the show, obviously, so I got to go listen to it and see what he's been up to. Anybody listen to Big Wreck? I just heard one song yesterday. They just released a new project, and it was killer, but just one tune, but it sounded great. Best way to hook up an IRX into a PS100 in cab? Well, I mean, there's only kind of one way to do it, really. You come out of the IRX with the IRs off into the PS100 line input, and then take a speaker cable out and go into a cabinet. If you want to run pedals in front, you can. If you want to run anything in the effects loop of the PS100, you can. Or if you just want to patch straight out of the line output of the IRX into some effects and then into the PS100 line in, you can do that too. So it just depends what you want to do. Yeah, all kinds of different ways you could do things. Okay. I have, from personal experience with someone in that level of stardom, he was just one of the dudes and funny, take charge, but in a self-deprecating way. So I think you're saying it was a good experience. Like you met somebody that was a big rock star level, but they were cool, but they knew how to take charge, but in a self-deprecating way. That's a good skill. Team says, seems like today a big part of being a pro musician is producing videos in addition to gigging and sitting in. Your production quality is always tops. Did you learn all your video chops on the fly? Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, I don't even think I'm that good at it, to be honest, at editing video, or I just sort of know how to use Final Cut in a sort of rudimentary way. I learned a little bit about color grading, and I try and keep learning. One of the most important things is lighting. You can make a good video on an iPhone if you've got good lighting, and I have a very big professional light in front of me, actually 2 of them right now. I look a little washed out right now. That's because I could use a better my $99 Logitech webcam. But anyways, did you listen to the new Stones album? Yeah, I was talking about it earlier. Love the new Stones album. Just terrific. Just terrific. Let's see. What else we got here? Love the new Stones, says Ibarge. Get the vinyl for my new hi-fi. Awesome. I want to get a hi-fi. There's a new record store in my neighborhood, and I'm just like getting excited about buying a. I need to do a little bit of renovation at home is what I need to do one of these days. I need a new kitchen, I feel like, and a bathroom maybe. So that's a big reno right there. But in the process of, I can't put off getting a record player till I do that. I got to get a record player and rearrange my living room scene a little bit. It's pissing me off. And I just want a cool little system, you know, some nice little bookshelf speakers and a nice record player, and start collecting records again. It seems like a fun way to spend money. Yeah. It's funny. I said wallflowers by accident, and a bunch of you guys are talking about the wallflowers. I like the wallflowers. My friend's the bass player now, so he's why not, from the Netherlands. He's there, tours with them on bass now. Yeah. So Tom says he saw Grace Under Pressure tour 2 times. That was an awesome show. Would have loved to have seen that. I didn't catch Grace Under Pressure. I don't know if it came to Edmonton. I love the video, you know, the concert movie that was from Toronto. Watched that over and over and over. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, Stealth Parrot saw the Moving Pictures tour at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. Lucky you. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't catch Rush till 87 or 88 on the Presto tour. And the reason is I had second row center seats to the Power Windows tour, but it got canceled at Edmonton. It got snowed out. There was a big storm, and their trucks didn't make it with their gear in time for the show. The band was in Edmonton. They went on the radio station and said, "We're sorry, we can't play the show." And I was so bummed because it was the best tickets that I ever got for a show. Second row floor, right in the middle. And the show never happened. I was so sad when I got all the way to the venue, and it was cold as hell and snowing, and I got to the venue and there was a sign on the door that said the show's canceled. I was just like, oh, come on, you know, crazy. Anyways, Joe says, good to see you. Good to see you too. Oh, Peter Henderson produced Grace Under Pressure. I thought it was Rupert Hine. Did Rupert Hine do any Rush? Sorry about that. I sometimes say wrong things, don't I? I thought he did. Rupert Hine, Rush. Maybe it was Presto that he did. Oh, yeah, he did Presto and Roll the Bones, right? Okay. Just got my records mixed up. Wasn't totally, but well, I was wrong. But, yeah, Presto and Roll the Bones. And it looks like he passed away in 2020. That's too bad. Didn't know that. Anyways. Those are good records too. The Polaris, that was that guitar. Yeah, the Guild. Yeah, sorry, I didn't say the name. Yeah, it kind of looks like an SG. Yep. And pretty fun. All right. Let's see. Third Secret is Matt Cameron, Kim Thale, Chris Novoselic. Yes. So I'm gonna give that a listen. I listened a little bit when it came out. I saw a couple videos and stuff, but gonna check it out. Tokai 335, Andy is recommending. Yeah, I like most Tokais, or Japanese Tokais are fantastic. Left My Hand says, thanks for everything you do for us. Like, tell you the wrong producers for Rush Records. Sorry, but absolute wealth of knowledge. And sometimes a little skewed, or, you know, not accurate, but I do my best. Do you have one specific picking or hand coordination riff drill that works for intermediate players? I would say get the Paul Gilbert Intense Rock 1 video and just do his exercises. That's how I learned how to alternate pick quickly and accurately. Steve Morse too has some great stuff. He did it was called Power Lines, I think was his video that he did for REH. And he does things like too many notes where he's like alternate picking all it through. I mean, it's just a workout, so there's no substitute for just practicing. And some of the things that those guys do in those videos are, that was the prototype for what that and Vinnie Moore. He had an instructional video too with some great like 3-note per string kind of triplet alternate picking things. I'm going to eat this because I'm like really hungry. Or at least a couple bites. Okay, what else we got here? While I chew. Sorry, these are really chewy. Speaking of 335s, I have an Epi inspired by Gibson Cherry 335, but love it. But if I want to be brave or stupid, attempt to swap the pickups. Yeah, Thornbuckers would be real nice. The only thing is, as you probably know, excuse me, got that bite out of the way. The semi-hollows can be very difficult to swap pickups on because of the best thing to do is just like take out everything. I think the whole wiring harness and stuff, it all has to come out of the F holes and stuff. I don't know. I mean, there's probably great YouTube videos on this, how to swap pickups on a 335. Like there's probably some techs that have put up videos and stuff. So I would do the research, but you might not have to pull the whole thing. I mean, you probably do. I mean, the wiring harness probably needs to come out through the F holes, right? And then you need to, just leave the pickup leads long or whatever and solder them while the whole wiring harness is out. And then you somehow feed it back through and get it back through the holes. And it's a whole thing. I would pay somebody to do it if I was you, that knows what they're doing. But yeah, Thornbuckers, long story short, would be great for sure. Yeah. Somebody's talking about Pearly Gates pickups compared to Thornbuckers. They have lower mids. Yeah, I would say less mids than a Thornbucker Plus. Pearly Gates is more like a, I think they're is Pearly Gates Alnico 5. These are the obviously the Seymour Duncan. Let's see. I'm not sure on the magnet type on. I think they're 5s. Focus mid-range with raw Texas punch and sizzle. Tech specs. Oh, they're 2. Alnico 2. Choose drop downs to display. Okay, I'm just gonna take a look here. Let's say bridge pickup is 8.2. Yeah, so it's going to be pretty low. That's a pretty low whine for a Alnico 2. I mean, not that doesn't tell the whole story, but it's like it's a pretty low whine affair, I would say, and probably going to be fairly, balanced, but not like lots of mids. I mean, Thornbucker Plus is closer to Alnico 4 and a hotter wine. It's gonna be a little louder and a little more. It's a fine line, but anyways, any advice on getting a good drummer for tracks? God, there's so many guys I know now that are doing sessions and stuff. Been programming, but I miss the feel of a good drummer can bring to it. My buddy Jake Hayden does a lot of sessions. Guy that I just did the Nick Carter tour with. You could look into him. Most drummers these days are doing sessions. You could get Britt to play on your stuff. She does sessions and stuff. So I'm not sure if she's still on Fiverr. She might be. You can hire her off of Fiverr, and she does great stuff. But yeah, most drummers these days, a lot of them have their own studio setups and stuff. And Lauren says, talk to me via remodel. Okay, I will, Lauren. I'll do that. For sure. Yeah, and one of these days I got to do it. Favorite guitarist not known for being a guitarist? Maybe Prince, or who else are great ones? I mean, McCartney did some cool stuff on guitar. He played the Taxman solo. Who else? I don't know. Kind of producer types. Kevin Gilbert played some really cool stuff on guitar back when he was, making his music in the 90s. I always remember him saying, like, I'd be like, the guitar is really cool in the song. He'd be like, yeah, but that's me sitting there for like 4 hours just working out like 3 notes and trying to figure out a cool part. I'm like, who cares if it ends up sounding good? Doesn't matter, you know? Seapost City was at the Presto Tour. I saw the Presto Tour in Edmonton. I was still living up there then for a couple more years before I moved here. Did you score any Black Friday gear? No, but I got some t-shirts and a pair of jeans. Yeah. You can make up for missing that Rush show by getting Alex Lifeson on Sunday Live. I would love to do that. I have tried, and I haven't been successful as of yet. So who knows? Maybe one of these days. But yeah. But we've got Kim coming on, so that's gonna be awesome. Your Tune In Good Company is really great. Love it. Thanks. My friends Laurie Basilio and Tim Pierce both contributed solos to that, and that song started out as a demo for a compressor, I think, a Bogner compressor, and then I extended it into a full tune. I liked the jam, the Pink Floydy kind of funky. I don't know, it just had this nice bed to it, and I thought this would be a fun one to have some guests on and just turn it into a guitar solo fest, you know. So and they both were kind enough to contribute video and solos, and I loved it. So yeah. Okay. All those 1980s VHS guitar tutorial videos are on YouTube. They really are. You can probably find the Vinnie Moore one, Steve Morse. The David T. Chastain instructional video is hilarious. Played it in my shop in the 90s. To this day, people still come up to me and let's go to the live band situation. What does that mean? Now you got me wanting to watch it. I haven't actually seen that one. You got to see it. Pete, was that the video where Paul said to make it sound like a straw sticks in the bicycle spokes? It's the truth to develop alternating. Yeah, I mean, alternate picking, really, it's got to be like that fast, snappy, and even thing for sure. Just comes with practice, and a metronome. Yeah. Yeah. My niece Hurt says, I made a 335 kit. Really? Did you? Stu Mac, have fun with those electronics. Use lock washers on the inside of the guitar on the pots. Helps them hold in place when you tighten the nut. That's cool. Favorite guitar tech in LA? There's a few that I've used over the years, but I don't. Let me see. I really like at Grayson's Toontown. My buddy Eric works there. That's in Montrose, so it's a little north of LA, kind of north part of Glendale, really. But they've got a nice shop there. So Grayson's Toontown. It's also a nice store, and they carry Sur now. So for those unfamiliar with it, it's a cute little town. It looks like you're in a little Northern California sort of, like Napa town or something. And it's just north of Glendale. So check it out if you haven't been. I like Norik Renson's shop a lot too, but he's always busy. Renson Guitar Repair. When you are soloing, do you have a special scale, or are you doing it freely? I mean, I kind of just play freely these days, but I know vaguely that I'm playing major or minor, and then how to work around the kind of I know generally whether I'm playing in, Dorian mode or relative minor, Aeolian or Dorian, there's always like, is it the raised sixth or the lowered sixth? And beyond that, I'm pretty just using my ear, I guess. What about Stuart Smith as a guest? Oh, that'd be fun, actually. I wonder if he'd be into it. Would be cool to compare your stories about being a hired gun for some pretty big acts. He's hired gun for the biggest act, really, isn't he? The Eagles. I love Stuart. I haven't talked to him in years. It'd be great to chat with him on the show. I'll think about that. Playing through a clean tone or Sense amp while alternate picking results in improvements quickly. Paul Gilbert would practice a lot with the Lab Series amps on clean in the MI practice rooms. Yeah, I mean, just the articulation, not having the distortion smear or anything is, for sure. I'm thinking about getting a flying V for my collection. In your experience, what's the sustain and tone differences? I've never owned one. That's one guitar I've never owned. There's a few. I mean, I've never had a flying V. I've never had a Guild, so that Guild is interesting. I've never had a Gretsch. I've never owned an Ibanez before my Destroyer. So I've had a lot of guitars, though. But it's been a lot of Gibsons and Fenders and now Sir, and, certain types of guitars. But one thing I never had was a V. Love to get a V. Or an Ibanez Rocket Roll. Do you like nickel or solid state frets on your signatures? I like solid state, stainless steel. I like stainless steel frets on my signature, but on vintage guitars, I tend to like nickel. On a guitar that was old and would have had them originally, I sort of like the nickel thing, like so old Les Pauls, and I kind of tend to prefer them. But on modern guitars, I tend to like the solid state, stainless steel frets. Such an idiot sometimes. I am a little sleepy. I don't think I slept enough. Okay. Always speculated there's a way to hack the EQ section of the Rivera Rock Crusher recording using as an amp through speakers. You can only use it as an amp through the DI. What are you trying to do? Well, I don't understand, actually. Sorry, Vin, exactly what you're trying to do. The EQ section of the... Yeah, sorry, I don't get it. I'd have to have one here in front of me to understand the question. I know it's a load box that also has an EQ that you can... I see what I think you're saying. You want to be able to use the EQ to EQ the sound coming out of the cabinet after the load box. Maybe. I mean, yeah, if it's loading the amp down to line level, but it's not. No, probably not, man, because you know what it's doing is it's just attenuating the signal off of the, you plug the amp into the attenuators, resistors and stuff in there that are loading down the amplifier and sucking some of the power off it, but then sending some of it still through to the speaker output. So there's no line level in there. That's all like still speaker level and kind of a hot level coming out of the speaker jack into the cabinet, just passing some of that intense signal through to the speaker cab. So there's nowhere to really put an EQ in line in that. You'd have to use it as a load, which you can do, and then take the DI out and go into another power amp. Then you could do it, but yeah. But see, the thing is that the EQ isn't the only thing in line, I think, on the Rock Crusher recording. It's basically, when it's set flat, it's kind of like a Palmer. It's got an EQ curve to it coming out of the DI. So the EQ isn't the only thing shaping the sound. There's a high-end roll-off kind of thing going on that's attempting to simulate the sound of a guitar speaker, and then the EQ lets you tune that. So I don't know if it would sound very good running into a cabinet anyway, even if you could do it. Yeah, but I see what you're trying to do. Yeah. FYI, I always post some reviews on vendor pages that I heard about the gear from Pete Thorn. Cool, thanks. That's helpful. I mean, it tends to, spread the word and keep people hiring me, I think, to make videos and things. So, yeah. Prince at Rock and Roll Hall of Fame playing George Harrison while my guitar gently weeps is mind-blowing. Yeah, it was really cool. I agree. It was a great performance. Another strange gear question, says Vin. How do you use the Rock Crusher recording as a regular amp? Any ideas on how to hack the DI into speakers? So we just did that. But yeah, if you want to do the DI into speakers, just take the DI into another power amplifier. So something like a Seymour Duncan, power stage would work, or you could use a tube power amp or anything you want. But you take that DI output and essentially run that into, you can even go into some effects and then go into another power amp. Go into effect return of an amplifier, a second amp, and use just the power section. There's a few different ways. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. But I don't know if it'll sound good because of the EQ. If you can bypass the EQ, and I don't remember if you can or not on that unit, but if you can bypass the EQ, that might sound best. If you turn the EQ on or the speaker simulation, it's going to be, running through something akin to a Palmer, as I remember. And then like a Palmer PDI 03 or whatever they're called. Yeah. So it's kind of a curve to it. Might sound dark into a guitar cabinet. Jim, just bought a Hoto and Ampero Mini. Sounds good with cab sim on with FR monitors, but not so good with cab sim off in front or return of my amp. Well, into the return of your amp, you're using the amp as a power amp, kind of like I was just talking about, and then you're using the Hoto and the Ampero Mini as a preamp essentially, and loading up a model, and it just might not be to your liking if you're used to using a regular amp. You might want to try using it in the effect loop just for effects and use your amp's preamp, or use it for cable. I think you can do that on that. If there's at least a loop, you might need a ground isolation transformer to eliminate any noise. But, I would say that it's probably not going to sound great into the front of an amp for anything other than adding some, some effects and minimal effects. Try it in the loop using your amp's preamp, and don't use any of the amp modeling in it. Just use it for effects. Try that. There's a limit to, the best amp modelers are, they can sound good going into a return or using them as a preamp into a tube power amp or whatever, but they're not all going to be like, we can't expect these things to be like these magic bullets that sound as great as a terrific tube front end in an amp, or we'd all have switched to them by now, So probably I would suggest, if I had an Ampero Mini and a nice amp with a loop, I would probably suggest using it just for effects. That's just my take. I love Stuart Mathis playing. Stuart was an absolutely terrific guitar player. I haven't talked to him in years, but he moved to Nashville years ago. Not really in touch with him anymore. Nice cat, though. I remember him well from LA, but it's 20 years ago. Let's see. Any thoughts on the new TST Electronic 2290? Well, why don't we look at it too? Because I have it here. That is, after all, what we do here. Now, this one, ooh, that's interesting. Comes with some sort of screen that must go over the face panel to keep it protected. It's kind of a nice touch. Multiple unboxing of the latest and greatest gear on Pete Thorn Sunday Live. Wow, it's sizable. It's got some heft to it. There we go. $22.90. What's it take for power? Oh, it's pretty 9 volt, 250 milliamp. That's nothing. Plug it in, see what it looks like. Oops. Sorry, 1 sec. There we go. Get you back here. There we go. Yeah, sorry, I got a power supply to contend with here, so I'm not going to be able to trying to show you what it looks like, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, A and B. That looks really cool. Got to get into this too. So next week, little modulation section. It looks like it's really easy to use with the big display and push buttons and stuff. That's nice. What's this thing do? The protector screen. Ooh, wow. Is that ever a nice touch? It's kind of It's like magnetic, and this will go over the switches and stuff. That is nice. It's like a magnet. It clips on there. That's pretty cool. So you can throw a beer at it, and it'll survive. Here's the theory. Throw a beer at it. Let's see what happens. That'll be a good demo. How's it sound? Who cares? Throw a beer at it. Oh, I'm just going to leave that up here on the desk because it looks so nice blinking away there with its display. I like the great big LEDs for, or whatever the LED, is that what you call it? The display for nice to read. Oh, somebody says Pete should own a GNL. That was one guitar I never had either. A GNL. Never had one. It's kind of like the Other Music Man or something, I just never got one. I don't know. For a while, I thought they were really cool. Yeah. Okay. Crazy idea to have John Shanks as a guest. He probably has stories to tell. Yeah, he's a major guitar geek. I mean, we'd get into talking about AC30s, and then he'd be off and running for a half an hour about talking about the different years and what he, it would be pretty wild, but that's a good idea too. Just ordered a UA Lion based on your video. It's a lot of fun, man. It's a blast to play Van Halen with, that's for sure. Mono or stereo in your monitors? How do you do stereo if you want to get a mono aux feed from the desk? Well, you don't. Jason, my take is I love the ASI. I just read a terrific review that basically echoes my sentiment about the ASI in-ears, but they're different than any other in-ear I've ever tried on the market with their active microphones. And for me, they're a revelation of, they said all the same stuff that I basically said. It's like an active earplug where you can just kind of turn down the volume and it doesn't sound exactly the same as having no in-ears in, but it's very, very close. And then you can use EQ and a limiter. It's like having an amazing earplug. So then you can then jack signal from a desk into that and add stuff. So that for me is, I got very used to using them on the tour I just did. I put in some good, I didn't have a wedge or anything, so I was forced to use them. Basically, I had to get into it, and I just really enjoyed it. And used a ton of the ambient sound and just blended in some of my guitar and some click and some drums and lead vocal and stuff like that. It was great. So, gotta have stereo. Danny sent me a super sticker. Thank you for that. We appreciate your super chats and stuff. Appreciate you all being here. It's about 1:43. I'm going to stay on for another 10, 15 minutes, something like that. Then I'm going to go get some work done. Yeah. Teammate says the 2290 looks sick. I had no knowledge of this. Yeah, I know. That's part of my job too, is to get a video done so that spreads the word a little bit. But there is a TC 2290 foot pedal. All these great rack units showing up in pedals now, like the EVH SD 3000, which I adore, and the 2290, etc., etc., etc. Okay. I'm good at throwing beers, says Horst. Does it pass the beer test? I think it might. I should throw a beer at it now in my video. That's terrible. I can't do that. Joe says this is the first he's heard of it as well. I'm not the only guy that doesn't hear of things first anymore, I guess. Yeah, 2290, the Fender. We got it all here. We got lots of stuff to get to here over the next 3 weeks or so. Let's see here. Dan just got a new Tony Iommi 15-watt combo. That's fun. Valve jobby. Get yourself a valve jobby. Okay. What else? There's a super chat. Who's this? Matt McGrath. Are you Mark McGrath's brother? One day. Pass me. Sorry, I had to. Sorry, dude. Wondering how you would compare the Greer Lightspeed to the DCX Boost. I'm really interested, as only use 1.0 drive on my board, so I have to be picky. Dude, I don't know if I played either of those, and you gave me a super chat. So I know this Lightspeed pedal is one that people talk a lot about. There it is. It's a good looking pedal, that's for sure. It's the Lightspeed Organic Overdrive from Greer Amps. It's a very natural sounding overdrive. Why organic? Well, simply put, it's the cleanest, most natural feeling and best overdrive we've heard for the player looking for a natural drive tone. Reading off of their ad copy here. Blending with the tone of the guitar and amplifier, this pedal has rich harmonics and complex but smooth clipping. The Lightspeed Overdrive is sensitive to pick attack and has a different feel than other overdrives. Take two. The Lightspeed can be set to be transparent, but can also drive your guitar signal to the edge. Looks like Peter Stroud uses it. He's a buddy. Let's see. Natural loud to might overdrive. I think I need more sleep. Natural light to mild overdrive was what I was trying to say. This is dyslexia kicking in. Well, there's a picture of Peter on their website. Can be set to sound like the original signal. That's interesting. So it's probably pretty close to like almost like a dirty boost, where you can add. It's like a boost, but with a gain with a grind circuit, So that sounds cool. So what's the other one that you're looking at? The DCX. Now, isn't that DCX Boost OD? What's that? Oh, that's the. I have played this pedal, the Origin Effects, which is really cool. Well, I'm not going to be able to offer you like a ton of this is meant to be like a mic preamp. That's right. The DCX is like the mic preamp style boost, iconic stuff of the 60s and 70s. Yeah, this pedal I just thought had a great organic. I mean, that's a terrible, how the hell do you describe it? But the DCX boost was really nice from there's the MEQ driver that was also really cool that I loved because of the mid thing, and I love mid and treble boosters. DCX has more of a transparent kind of. Without back-to-backing them, I'm useless for you right now. But I will say the DCX boost sounds great, and like most Origin pedals, they sound really good. This is nice to hear. Your new X presets for Trident are awesome. Thanks. So you got one, and you tridented it. Sorry, it's awful. You tried it. You tridented it. That's a multi-effect modeler unit from NuX, and I made some presets for him recently. I've been playing a few years now, getting my vocals in tune. Just got a Mackie 6-channel mixer. Can I run my Fender amp with preset effects into the mixer? Does your Fender amp, is it a modeling amp? Because if so, then yes, you can probably take a preamp out of it or whatever, the DI out of it and go into the mixer with your effects. But is it a tube amplifier? Because then no. But if you have a little load box, you could do that. So I need to know more to answer that. I need to know what Fender amp exactly. How do you handle maintaining some gain or breakup at low volume? Seems like when I'm playing loud rock and roll, it's great, but low volume, I run out of gain as soon as the volume pot is at 8 or 9. Okay, do you mean the volume on your guitar or the volume on your amp? How do you handle maintaining some gain or breakup at low volume? Seems when I'm playing loud rock and roll, it's great, but low volume, I run out of gain as soon as the volume pot is at 8 or 9. Are you talking about the guitar volume? Because if you are, then I would say you need to run a if you use a distortion box like a SD9, like Landau, he's always playing with the volume control on the guitar, and he'll have that pedal on with the gain cranked way up. But when he rolls the volume down, the guitar is basically getting crunch. It's a little like the butter machine from Vemram. That's like very similar. So, I would say that by adding an overdrive, I don't know if you're talking about the amp volume or not. So if you're talking about the guitar volume, it just means adding a drive pedal in front and then rolling the volume down on the guitar. What strings do you use in your Taylor acoustic? I use like 11 gauge Ernie Balls now, usually the Earthwoods. Got a Taylor 614 Builder's Edition. Not happy with the strings I used until now. What do you use? Because you didn't tell us what strings you're using. But if you're happy with them, tell us. Let's see here. Hit the the like button, please, says T-Mix. Yes, please do. Hit that like button. Earl says, thanks for another wonderful Sunday live. I appreciate you being here, my friend. Thanks. Okay. Some super chats here. There's Paul. Thanks for your super chats, guys. Appreciate that. Keep the coffee stocked around here. Have you seen the Charvel PA 28 signature guitar? Is that Mr. Peshwant? He's got a signature, right? It's pretty cool, right? And it's got the Wilkinson trim. Yeah, double locking. Look, the guitar looks nice. Silver, right? And looks really cool. I agree. Haven't had a chance to try it, but I have seen it, yes. Thank you for your super chat. Dirty Boost sounds dirty. Agreed. Matthew Kennedy, thank you for the super chat. From one Matt to another, Lightspeed is my all-time favorite drive. Pretty much all my touring buddies have one because it just works on any backline amp. Cool. Maybe I should get one. Put it on my board just as an extra. I kind of use the unobtainium for that now, like my medium gain or low gain drive in front of my PT100 or PT15 on the clean channel to get like an alternative overdrive. If I'm playing, say, Stones level overdrive or something, I use the unobtainium, but it sounds like the Lightspeed is similar, low gain kind of thing. Have you tried the Vemaram Janray? Yeah, I had it on my board for years. I'm considering the Buddy G seems to sound clearer than the Janray. Well, I think it's more of just a gain stage with like some grind that you can add, because you can basically kind of do, you can tune the saturation on the Buddy G using this right here. And then it's got a gain control and a level control. So kind of, more or less grind using the gain control, and then you can control it further with this fine-tuned pot. And then you got bass and treble there. So kicks the front end of my Marshall nicely. Yeah. Does a fuzz face clean back if you dial back the volume when run through something like a Boss Waza error? Yeah. I mean, it will actually. It does a thing with the guitar. It's really interacting with the guitar, not the amp. You roll down the what is it going on my computer? You roll down the guitar and it kind of brings in all this top end and cleans up and stuff, and it's really it'll do it through any amp, maybe some more than others depending on how dynamic your amp is, but thanks for answering my questions earlier. Here's another. What's your favorite way to combat the hurry up and wait aspect of touring? Oh man, read books, work on a course on your phone, like language, or something like get Babbel or something, and work on just have things to distract yourself. Always have ways. Your guitar practice. Get the guitar and sit down and play for a bit. Have a little like Black Star. One of those little amps everybody uses, the little battery powered one, and just then the time will fly by. When you're waiting for sound check and stuff. But yeah, it gets harder. The older I get, I think a little bit. It's like the start to become more aware of the hours off stage can be, and depending on where you tour, if you're in a really wonderful city or something, it can be really fun, but if you're in middle of nowhere and sitting on the side of a freeway at a Holiday Inn or something like that, and the only thing across the street is a Waffle House, it's kind of grim, it's like, really is. So any update on the PT50? Not right now. I got to go to SIR next week, and so I'm going to have a little meeting with them and see where we're at. But I don't have anything for you at the moment. When is Kim on? 2 weeks from today. Kim Thale from Soundgarden will be on the show, and we're going to discuss his new Guild signature guitar, as well as all kinds of other stuff. So it should be fun. 2 p.m. though, special time. I'll put up a watch page this week for it so that it's up there for a while. And yeah. Thanks for another wonderful live stream. My favorite place to be on Sunday mornings. Thanks, Eston Ray. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. I should go soon, you guys. I'll take another 3-4 minutes here, and I'm going to jet. I'm going to go down through the I think I am at the bottom of the chat, actually. So, okay. There we go. Check out some Jeff Beck for some whammy bar inspiration. Yeah, agreed. He's, master of the bar, as well as Life's. And, yeah. Mike was asking him, progress in my new Sir PTM. I'm going to find out this week where we're at. I've been a little out of the loop because I've been out of town and tours, and the Nick Carter tour really kind of took me for a few months. For about the last 3 months, I've been really it was a lot of rehearsal and work and going into it, and then the touring and everything. And then I got back for just a few days, and then I went to Japan for like a week. Came back. I was back for 3 or 4 days. Back out with Nick for 11 days. Came back. Now I'm back for like 6-7 weeks, so I can finally address some things. But yeah, from August onward, it really kind of, you might notice my Instagram output and my YouTube output and everything's been a little like, and that's just, there's only so many hours in the day. So it's this year was a lot of touring, for me. It's interesting for me. It was like to, like the difference, I don't know how bands tour for like 7-8 months of the year or 9 months of the year. I guess if you're in the Foo Fighters or something, it's one thing. It can be your whole life. You take your family and it's like on a very high level and all that. But for me, I think, I seem to notice that if I go more than 4 months out of town, it's wild, it's like life, like a year goes by and you're like, where'd the year go? Like, so it's just a kind of crazy, but I noticed that a little bit this year because I was gone a lot this year. This year was I started off touring, did another month in the summer, and then I just did another, what amounted to basically a month or whatever. And it ended up being over 4 months total of touring. And I was like, I really noticed it this year that it takes you away from everything else. Not as good or bad thing. It's just an observation about touring in general, that it's like, okay, well, you only have so much time for things. So things like the amp, haven't really talked to John about it in a while, so I don't know where we're at, So nearly 300 Sunday Lives, says Julian. Congratulations. Thanks. Yeah, 300 will be soon in a couple weeks. An early notice for the Kim show would be appreciated. Yeah, 100%. Of course. I'm going to put up a watch page for that. I'll do it this week so that it's up there for at least 12 days before or something. It'll be obvious the time and everything else. Yeah. Ben Coombe says he's going to be live tonight doing a tribute to his pop. That's a very sweet thing that you're going to do there, my friend. And condolences to you. And Ben's show is, there you go. You can see the link there in the, Ben, of course, my faithful moderator. Everybody go there and join and watch if they can. Thank you, Ben, for always being here. Teammates is going to take off. I should go too, guys. Britt is in Abu Dhabi, and I'm going to give her a call right now because she's about as far away as she can be, and she's got to go to bed, I'm sure. She's halfway around the world to play a Demi Lovato gig. All right, everybody. Have a terrific rest of your day. Terrific week. Thanks for all being here. Love y'all. Appreciate you. And I'm going to get to work on a video for this Buddy G. I already started on it yesterday. And then the Fender thing and the TC delay and all kinds of stuff we got to do around here. It's going to be great. All right. Rock on, everybody. Have a terrific week. Thanks so much.